Okay, so let's start. Let me share my screen with you all, then we can start our session. So I hope you are able to see the slides. Anyone? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, dear. Thank you. Okay, so let's start, because almost these sessions are towards our end of a medical writing, right? We are almost done with our course. So let me give you a bit of context for a medical writing guideline, what we are today going to cover. The primary focus of our guidelines they are divided in a couple of things. Like, you must have seen a regulatory guidelines. That's the reasons we have studied our ICH. Because why we are saying ICH even under the regulatory, because all the regulatory bodies like our FDA, like our DCGI, even EU, they all follow ICH. So these all are E3 guidelines, E6 guidelines. They are the foundation. They are not going anywhere. They are always going to be there. But otherwise, there are some reporting guidelines. Those we will be talking today. Like, if it is a randomized trial, how you can prepare a report, right? Or if it is an observational trial, what guidance you can follow, what template you can follow, like that. So that's the major difference, because I don't want to confuse you that you forget this part. This is non-negotiable. Even in your interview questions, reporting, very rarely people ask you about reporting guidelines, because they're going to teach you. It is part of company SOP and templates. Listen to me very carefully. This is part of companies, either SOPs or a template. But for our regulatory guidelines, they are non-negotiable. So this is like reporting guidelines is like good to have information. This regulatory guideline is must to have information. And company SOPs and templates, when you will be joining some organization, they are going to tell you. Even you must have heard of a style guidelines. Like, you will be following American AMA guidelines, right? Or APA guideline, whatever is. These style guideline is also like, style guideline is keep a first letter capital, or write 10 like this or like this, or add a comma after this. All those styles, the way you want to write, they are also going to be part of company SOPs and templates. So this is the main focus. This is good to have information. Just keep that in mind. So what are the different type of guidelines, so that in case in some interview or somewhere someone asks you, so you do not go blank. Like our equator guidelines, consort guidelines, arrive guidelines, stroke, prism. So these are certain guidelines. They are falling under the reporting guideline. Even you will be going on a Google or even any portal, you will be able to download these guidelines easily, not that difficult. Now, first, why this network? Equator guidelines, they came because of this network. The reason is, they are even, the wording came from for enhancing quality and transparency of a health research, so that they develop the guidelines in a way that quality of your data, that should be intact, and transparency means that you should be sharing all the information, either it's a positive or it's a negative. Because general tendency, what researchers found, that they started hiding the negative results. Suppose if the trial fails, you have done phase 2 studies, it failed. Failed means it is not able to achieve the objective. Suppose the topmost objective was the immunogenicity or a treatment. It didn't achieve that. It failed. Mostly the tendency was that people are not going to publish. That means hiding. That's where this word came into, because these days this transparency is getting a lot of attention, because what they saw is the 97% of the results, those are posted, they are positive. Is it humanly possible? No. There will be a negative, or suppose there are phase 2 trial only, there are 5 goals of study. 5 goals. For 3, good result. For 2, bad. What the researchers used to do? They used to publish 3 the good ones, not the bad ones. That means, where is the problem? Now you can ask me the question, where is the problem? Now, this clinical research we are doing on human. They have done a phase 2 trial, correct, on 100 people. They've not shared that there are negative impact also. Some other person will also repeat that same mistake, again exposing the same patient to the risk. Right? That is the deeper reason, the in-depth reason, because you are exposing the patient to the same risk that already someone is knowing that. Okay, so now this came into existence, this group, in 2018. I'm sorry, 2008. This is an umbrella organization for all kind of healthcare research, not categorizing observational, interventional, nothing like that. So these are very robust guidelines, and they keep on updating all the guidelines. Even like you know that E6 is updated this year. E6 has been revised this year. This can be your interview question. That when E6 has been revised, and what is the part of a modern revision? This comprises of expert who made these guidelines. That's the question. They are experts from general editors, peer reviewers, because the one who they know the field, or statisticians and other experts. Currently, there are 358 guidelines related to healthcare research, and they are also available in a different language. Especially in Europe, there is one thing that they prefer things in their own language. This is also endorsed by leading journals. That is a good impact. Now, number 2 reporting guidelines that we can discuss is consort. And now I wanted to tell you, if you wanted to pay attention at least to one guideline, pay to this consort. This is also having a checklist. This is for standard for reporting trials. You will be having title, abstracts, method, result, discussion. Your main idea is how to present information is coming from here. Now, this is what I wanted to introduce you that. Even if you check the CSR, our clinical study report, we follow information in this way, like enrollment, allocation, follow-up, and analysis. Like how, suppose 100, I don't know if the further slides are having example. Okay, no example. So suppose example 100, take 100 only, easy to divide. 100 patients are enrolled. They are here enrolled. Correct? This is also known as a demographic information. In a way, demographic table. If you will be reading some CSR, clinical study report, this will fall under the category of a demographic information. Now, suppose we have a 2 groups allocation. 50 given here, 50 are here. This is drug A. Suppose this is placebo. This gone allocation. 50 participants comes here, 50. Now, how many took a medicine? There may be, now here you started the consent form and all that blah blah things. Now, in drug A group, only 49 were given dose. Maybe some one or other reason, one person said no. Here, maybe you have given to 50. Now follow up. Follow up maybe for 2 years. That is very easily happen. Now, how many people what happened in analysis? Sorry, what happened in this follow up in these 2 years, people? If you see in analysis, just take an example, we left with only 40 patients, 40 participants. Here we left with only 42. Now, one person we have said that without consent, okay. Now, what happened to these 9? That you have to give detail. Like, suppose example, one death, just an example. 3 essays, or you can say that 4 withdrawal, they can consent to withdrawal. Now 8, one more, what can be hassle? Loss to follow up, which is very common. Loss to follow up, the person stopped responding. So you have to give a detail like this. From where this idea came is from consult guideline. Because they are telling us present the information like this. So at the end, when I'm doing a math, here math should be of a 50. Now this is transparent. The way they have designed this table, they're saying at the end math should match. Now we know that 1 we got minus here, 49 came here, 1 loss to follow, 1 death, 3 essays, 4 withdrawal, 40 we are having analysis population, on 40 we are doing the analysis, and 50 is the your number reaching. Now this information is also, I'm going little deep in your clinical research concepts also simultaneously. When stat people, they design your sample size, they already take these permutation combination into account, that what will be the drop rate, how they came to know previous studies, any study which is reported similarly on a similar demographic, that will be they will be taking account into by calculating the power sample. Like now here 50 we started, analysis 42 what they are. So you also have to give a like example here what happened to those. Like another reason is investigator decision. One person, maybe health got very deteriorated, and investigator decided no, this person will not continue. Maybe again one death in this group, 2 essays. Then what happened to 4? Maybe they have a voluntarily withdrawal. They said that we don't want to continue, or loss to follow. Those reasons you can find a number of reasons. Sometimes you will find the reason like GCP violation. So my whole idea is to give you the concept that this is how information is presented. So like at the end you will be able to do the math, like 50 there, 50 total 100. Any question on this? Because this is the idea that was presented in a CSR. They have also given kind of a checklist, like how you discuss the information, because there is always a discussion part. Either you discuss your CSR or you discuss your research paper. There is always discussion part. So they have designed the checklist. They also say that discuss the limitation. What happens sometimes, this is the perfect example I have done, that we have 50 patients at the end. But sometimes what you happen, like an oncology trial, you maybe started with 50, but death rate is so high or other assays are so high that for analysis you left with only 10. Is it a good analysis population? Maybe not. Now we have almost 40 missing participants, but same time clinical research is such a that you can't waste the effort. Today I'm just introducing you to the little other concepts also. They can't waste the effort. So what they do is that they may use some imputation method, stat techniques, Hmm? So that you also have to explain in a limitation section, that imputation advanced, whatever level, maybe beginner level, whatever imputation techniques are used, that the data for missing value, so that at least we can complete some analysis, we can reach on some conclusion. Or any other interpretation related. Or even in a limitation section, suppose there are a GCP violation, some other issues, there may be a trial has stopped, that you have to explain, because that become your limitation. Details about registration and funding, and that is a must. Registration though is like these days done, without that you won't even get approval, like registration to CTRI, registration to ct.gov, EU CETUS. It's a part of package. You do not have a other way around, because you will not be able to file your NDA or INDA application if you are not doing it. About a funding. Hmm? Now we are going. Any question on this guideline? Because this is the takeaway from this guideline, this flow diagram. I can pause for a few seconds. Are you able to follow me? Are you able to understand this? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I will. Okay, thank you. There will be a mock interview, So my request is give your names to Samriti. Sorry, Samriti. Then we will be having a mock interview. That will be a very good chance for everyone. Another is arrive guidelines. Hmm. They are for your preclinical. At least remember these high level information. If you can't remember in depth information, at least just remember that which guideline is for what purpose. This guideline is for a animal research, reporting of in vivo experimentation. So why these guidelines are developed? They are developed by National Center for Replacement, Refinement, and Reduction of Animal Research, like your 3 CRs. And this is also important. People may ask you over the interviews, what are the 3 Rs? Replacement. If you can replace animal with something else, some other experimentation, do that. Refinement and reduce. That is the reason they are saying use AI in animal research as an alternate. And if you remember, I think 24 last year, yes, DCGI also published the guidelines for animal research, use of tech in animal research, and even FDA. Because maybe they are thinking that we can go in a direction where we can almost reduce the burden on the animals for a clinical research, right? Because these days it is a must, because that's what our Nuremberg code also saying, that's what our GCP guidelines are also saying in a way, right? So in 2009, analysis of 2071 study showed that only 60% of studies mentioning detail about age, sex, and weight of animals. That means they're ignoring, they're treating them like a guinea pig. They are not valuing their life. And they are not even capturing the information about the stain and sex, which is very, very important. The result, now what these guidelines say, the result must have baseline data, adverse event and outcome. Baseline data is when you started. Demographics data, like we started with 100. What was the, just like blood sugar on day 0? What was the baseline data at that time? That, suppose what is the weight on that day, that is your baseline data, and they will compare with the end result. in the in the end of discussion about possible implication and interpretation, if there are some implication that should be discussed, and how this is related to human and other species, how you are going to use this research in other way, because you have done a research on an animal. The life is there, then there is a responsibility. what you are going to do with this research. Hmm? And of course, the information about the funding. Because when I also saw this animal facility in Ames quite early, like 2012, I didn't like it much because honestly, the way they kept animals is not that good. So they have to do lot in this area. That's the reason we are coming up with a new guideline. So that is about this right guideline. The crux of this guideline is that they are meant for animal research. Any research that you are doing on animals, then you can follow through these guidelines. All right. So now number three guidelines are stroke guideline. So these days, this word epidemiology is shining. Hmm? This is shining. Even people are doing degrees in epidemiology because the real world studies, they are gaining lot of, you know but what you say, that lot of highlight and also importance, because people these days, they are understanding that clinical research alone is not important. It is important to see the impact of a real world studies. So these are the guidelines. They are helping how to report a research. So epidemiology studies are there mostly observational studies. What is observational study? What is the difference between interventional and observational studies? Anyone? Any idea what is the difference between interventional and observational studies? You can paste your answer quick. No answer. That means we failed in our classes, huh? Not a good idea. Interventional is, and why I asked is so that you remember, we have studies consort guidelines. They are meant for these trials. Now we are saying stop guidelines. They are for your observational study. Interventional when you're using new drug. Now this new drug is that got approved. This is NDA approved. This is in the market. Patent is over. Now you can do observational study on that. Hmm? And observational study means just maybe you are observing like smoker non-smoker difference, effect of exercise. Like you are not giving any intervention. You are not intervening. You are just observing. So these are the guidelines. They are, and for observational studies, guidelines are quite easier. They are a lot easier. Okay, what these guidelines are saying, that 90% of the research in clinical field is observational. I agree too, because even when you start your clinical trial journey, you start with observational studies only, because you do the disease burden, that what is the burden of this disease. You do lot of comparative studies. Once the drug is in the market, then also you continue doing studies. And or lot of independent researcher also, they kept on doing observational studies. They are of course inspired by consort guidelines. When they came in 2004, there were three working groups, editorial staff of these leading journals, BMJ, Annals of Internal Medicine or JMA, and the Lancet. They came together. They thought like, because these are the journals, they also review the research articles, right? They came together and they brought these guidelines. Now, what these guidelines are having, they are having almost 22 checkpoints. Checkpoints means kind of checklist, like have you done this? Have you done this? Right. Out of 22, 18 items are common in all three study design. Remaining four specific to design they are catering to. So basically, they have given them an idea that these are the guidelines related to your study design, these are related to other things. So what they are saying, how you should be what this checklist is saying, that first is they're saying title and abstract. Hmm? This should be reflective of design of study. Abstract should be where vital information. So they're giving that the moment you designing title, if you go to your this clinicaltrial.gov, you try to find few observational study. In observational study, you will be able to understand what they're trying to do. The guideline is the title should be so much clear that it should be giving the idea of the design of the study. You should be able to get the idea that what type of design of this trial will be. Like in title only you will be get to idea like observational study designed, the observational study for 18 to 60-year women dealing with hypertension, like that. So you will be able to get an idea who, or you will see that studies, observational studies in a European Japanese population to study this. Even you see the concert guidelines given this same idea for your interventional study. You see everything you will get in the title, like phase 2b. Okay, that means phase 2 trial. This study, phase 2b, randomized, controlled. You are getting off a drug X for this, So you will get whole information about the design in your title. All these things, earlier people were not doing this. Now they have evolved. All credit goes to these guidelines and checklist. In an introduction, what they are saying is you should also describe rational and objective. Rational means why you are doing this research. That is that you remember when we studied, I think, I don't know who has taken protocol session. Protocol, we address this question, right? Objective, what are the goals of our study? What we are trying to achieve in this study, especially for an observational study. It's not like the question comes in my mind and I design this study. This must be having some scientific validity for this study. So in a rational, that what checklist is saying that almost similar to GCP, this the study or our GCP principles. What they say that scientifically sound protocol. That's what this meaning is. If the study tries to plug any gap in the existing level of knowledge, it should be stated clearly. Like maybe why you are doing this study, if already known, if this information is already available. Suppose this particular data is available on globally, but maybe you can design a study on your particular ethnic group, particular social group, like obesity in India, the diabetic disease burden in India. Okay, in India it is designed like maybe you wanted to study people in North, and further you can study some ethnicity, that you can do. But that should be clear, should be stated by the stat figures. Okay, what else is saying? That method should be explained clearly, like design and setting of the study. Like what is the design of the study? Where are you going to do this study, or how you are going to do this study? Because this is observational. Or are you going to or use the data which is already there? Is it retrospective, prospective, whatever? Time points rather than duration. This is very important. Rather than just saying over 2 years, you should define time, like from 2025 May to May 2027, like that, instead of this. Participants recruitment source, like how you are going to recruit. Are you going to work with some hospital or some doctor, or you are going to use source your information, and their eligibility criteria, method to follow up, how you are going to follow up. And preferably it should be same. Suppose an example, you are doing some research on the patient visiting X hospital. Hmm? Say that cancer, they have taken cancer therapy. Now you wanted to see their mental health status after that. It's completely an observational study, right? How you are going to follow them? Are you going to call them? Are you going to visit their home? Or if you are going to decide, you can't do 50-50, like or 50% people we will be calling, 50% people we will be going to meet in person. No. So it should be safe, preferably safe. There can be exceptions, outliers 1 or 2%, not all. Hmm? Case control or should be interviewed randomly. If you are going to interview, you have some control, you have a group of population, or how you are going to interview them. Now, this is on the, see, this we have covered, like this was on a title and abstract, then introduction, then method, because we are dealing with observational study. Now the result part is also important. The information about dropout with the reason. Suppose in observational study, the number of participants, they are very high, and the some studies goes on for years, like 10 years, 5 years. There are study days are just for months only also. So you will see all that, but if this is like 5 year, 10 year, I seen one study that was having 1 lakh population. I was like, oh my god, how they handled, you know. So quite of lot, many people. So if the people dropped out means the way I introduced you in the beginning. Suppose you may started with, let's start with the 1,000 number only. We are starting with less. At the end, we are left with 875. What happened to these 125? That you have to give explain with the reason. Demographic details, any comorbid conditions. Demographic details, age, sex, ratio, ethnicity, all that. Category boundaries, if used for continuous data. This is a bit of stat thing. Limitation of the study, if there is any limitation, any general information that you want to share. So this is checklist for your reporting on any observational studies, basically are epidemiological studies. So this is all for stroke guideline. Any question if coming in your mind, I can discuss now. This is the easiest way I have introduced you with these different reporting guidelines. Okay, so I think there is no question. We can move to our next set of guideline, PRISM guideline. So PRISM guidelines, they are set of items that ensure the systematic reviews are complete, unbiased, and the data is reproducible. Because these are the guidelines, they are addressing the meta-analysis. So what I've done is that our consort guideline is for randomized clinical trial. Our arrive guidelines are for animal studies, A for same, remember that. Then the recent stroke guidelines are for observational studies. Now our PRISM guidelines are for meta-analysis, systemic reviews. So what they, focus on, what these, just example, take an example which is very common because this is a meta-analysis. Suppose we are reporting a systematic review on the effectiveness of vitamin D, because many people are facing this information. Effectiveness of vitamin D for bone health. Just take an example. Someone is doing a systematic review for this. Like they have gone to some hospital. There are many people related to these issues are coming. Maybe some bone replacement is happening there. They just observe 1,000 patients, like who took vitamin D. So what this should be required, full research strategy. like what database they are going to use. Are they going to use the public, because this is meta-analysis. Hmm? All hospital published all this information, are they going to use that? Inclusion and exclusion criteria, study selection flow chart, risk bias assessment, hmm? What methods they are using to combine the study result. Hmm? Basically, these guidelines, they ensure that a review is transparent and the readers know how evidence was collected and analyzed. Very simple. If you have done some study, because this is meta-analysis, you already collating the data which is published in 10 different papers, but now you're studying at one place and reporting it. So they should know that how you collected this information and how you report it. That's it. That's the crux. So meta-analysis for top-tier evidence, because whole research is either creating evidence or presenting an evidence. Systematic review held in high regard as it summarizes, compares, and contrasts the finding of a several trials done. Sometimes, if there are so 10 studies are done. Now these 10 studies are done differently in a different setup. Now this meta-analysis is very important, because now they are studying the result of all these 10 studies. And they are going to compare these. They are going to summarize that where they have done the right thing and where they have missed something. So this was introduced in 1999, that as a quorum, quality of reporting of a meta-analysis was introduced. So this also follow the same diagram, like identification, you identify the source. Source, maybe you identified 10,000 studies. Then you maybe screened 5,000. Then not 55,000. Okay, I didn't say. Then eligibility. Then what are included? Maybe out of this, you found that we are in finding only 1,500 are eligible. Then what are the included? All is part of a systematic review. That you have to explain it clearly. Now, this is last guideline, also known as with the care report or a case report. So, but I can take a little pause also on a PRISM guideline in case there is a question. Okay. So case report guidelines, they are also known as the care guidelines. So they are guidelines are mostly related to specifically unusual presentation of drug. Say example that you wanted to include some case report or for a clinical condition. Let's put it like this, that you wanted to include a case report for a specific clinical condition. Example, unusual presentation of drug-induced liver injury. Suppose some doctor saw that evidence and he wanted to report it, that there is an unusual presentation of drug-induced liver injury, a case report. So it follows almost same, what you say that your paper follow for a case report. Like you may forget this. I can just write you like what is the background, what was case presentation, what was the outcome, key learning, because someone is presenting a case, key learning point. So in introduction, like they may say that rare adverse event from a common antibiotic example, that can be an introduction. That is your background. Then they will be introducing like patient age, sex, medical history, current medication, family history, like your narrative. Because just see that a rare adverse event from a common antibiotic. The background will be telling that this antibiotic is mostly tolerated by everyone. However, in this particular patient, be observe this. Then you will giving a detail of that patient because that is very important. Age, sex, medical history, any other medication, their family history. Say an example, 45-year-old male with history of type 2 diabetes, example, very common. Huh? So that will be kind of the way you will be writing. So and then the clinical finding will be example on symptoms, medical test, physical test, vitals. They're like presented with the jaundice, fatigue, elevated liver enzyme, like that. So basically, they have given a structure to our case also, because otherwise you will miss information. If you don't know that, okay, you have to present these things, like your background, history, case report, outcomes, key finding points. If you're not presenting, then you will lost. The title should have a case report mentioned on it, like we have what we said for this, because this was the easiest. I have given you an example, like uh, a rare adverse. This is what I said to you: an event from uh, common antibiotic. That is the title of your case. So everything is clear. Then you should be using your keywords like that you are using in your abstract and all that. Introduction should deal with uniqueness of the condition. So, say example, uh, we are saying this person, when we are introducing that this person, this antibiotic is tolerated mostly, but this 45-year-old male who was having history of who is having history of type 2 diabetes, that is uniqueness we are adding. Hmm? And then you will be introduced. Sorry. Clinical finding, like patient presented with jaundice, fatigue, elevated liver enzyme, anything, right? Then, but problem important is that you should keep everything confident. Suppose patient name is Rahul, it will be masked. This is known as a redaction. Someone is speaking, I guess. I can hear background noise.
पता है क्या है, ये जो सर नहीं, तो वहाँ जो जो टीचर होंगे ना उनको देना था।
They are not paying attention. Tarika, do not speak. If you're asking question, I don't have a problem, but because there is background noise, this breaks the rhythm. But see, what we were discussing, that just case is like, just imagine you are presenting one specific case. A patient came and you saw that unusual thing happened. So where we were like, you are presenting a uniqueness. Then also you will be giving the timelines also, because it will follow the same trend as of your narrative, like day one drug started, how many, like day 40 patient recovered, like that. So you will be giving whole idea. They will also be including the diagnostic assessment, like lab test, anything imaging, some challenges, anything was. यार ये क्यों बोल रहे हैं?
अरे
I don't want to remove, but I'm not seeing Brijesh Kumar. I'm not able to mute you as well. But if you are speaking again, I don't have any other option to remove you. Okay, so this is almost done. Now, this is something additional, any document, because sometimes I feel that people may ask you this question is that, or you wanted to work as a freelance, and if you wanted to start any document from a scratch, what is the process it follows? Like, maybe this is too small to read, but I can explain you. So what happened? Normally, work in the organization start with kickoff meeting, or if you are in a CRO, source document collection. This is how mostly work started. You do a kickoff meeting, you set the expectation, you ask the people. Just take an example, we are doing for a protocol only. You will be having a kickoff meeting with the stakeholders like your clinical science lead, your statistician, regulatory affairs, patent attorney. You as a writer will be a central person. The structure, because we have a template, right? With the input from everyone. If you're working in a CRO, you will be collecting a source document can be your investigator brochure, any other information, any literature, and proof of concept. Hmm? The one that you develop, then you will be drafting this first draft. Based on this will definitely follow the same process for almost every document. You draft one, then internal QC, some senior will review it, then it will go for review from these stakeholders. They will give you comment. Now, based on this comment, you will be preparing a draft too. So anytime, suppose you are working as a freelancer and you have to give them an idea, and you also wanted to set the expectation, you can tell them that I will be sharing a two drafts with you. Draft one, you can give me your comments, and then I will address your comments and will prepare the draft two. Then draft two will also go for a review, and there can be a minor changes. Something happens that can also be addressed. But generally, we follow the trend of draft one review and draft two review. And once second review is done, and they will send it back to you, and there are minor changes you can do, it will go for approval. And once the document is approved, then you can't change things. Then this is always defined. Then you can also ask a question, for you are working as a freelancer, like who will finally approve the document? Because if approval is not happening, then it is like ever open document. There is no end to that, right? But we as a medical writer, as a professional, have to put an end. And this is the moment you will be going in any organization, no matter you work as a quality control, no matter you work as a medical writer, no matter you work as a clinical trial transparency associate, any writing job you take, you will be in SOP, you will be finding this two rounds of review, and the final step will be approval. Once the approval is done, then your job is clear. So this is, you can say in a nutshell, that we follow the process in a medical writing. Okay, so if we wanted to take a quick revision, what were our today's guidelines? They were these only. So we have study reporting guidelines. They are not replacing any way your regulatory guidelines. They are additional, and mostly they will be part of companies' SOPs, and they are templates. Equator guidelines, consort guidelines, arrive guideline, stroke guideline, prism guidelines. And I think I forget to involve this care guideline. This is for a case report. Okay, so any question on our today's session? Tomorrow, I think we will be having one session. Then we are all set for our mock interviews. I am sharing. I have shared. I guess I have shared. outline of the questions, like what questions can be asked in a medical writing interview. There are around 25, but that doesn't mean that the questions will be asked from that only. No, not at all. They can be asked from any angle. Just try to prepare yourself with respect to those questions. Okay, tomorrow we are having session little early. We are going to meet at 10:30 because I'm having some work in the later part of the day. So see you tomorrow again. Good night.
Ma'am,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
can I ask what about the mock interview is for? Means, is it the final exam or what?
It is the ideal answer is that it is for you to prepare for real interview. Mock
Okay.
interview is not an exam in a way, but it is set in a way that it helps you to prepare the real time interview. Because if you have seen that, okay, this is how real interview happens, then I feel that you will be better prepared. That's the goal of mock interview. I just want to give you one thing to you all. Yeah, don't treat these are additional courses. Don't treat them as an exam, but treat them as a skill addition to your CV, hmm, so that you will feel more confident when you feel the real time interview. That is the goal.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, then see you tomorrow. Good night.